I'm a social entrepreneur. Recently I found out at the universities I'm called radical social entrepreneur. If I was a child today, yes, 8 years old, if I was a child today, it would be called ADHD. I would probably have medicine and had a very good job in the municipality of Malmö. When I was young, I wanted to be a photographer. After the fall of the wall, after the fall of the dictator Ceausescu in Romania, awful pictures came out from Romania. They have hidden away handicapped and mentally ill in hospitals. This is a room with mentally ill criminals. They were locked up. A patient had the key. He should open for food, medicine and toilet, but he figured out to put this so they could use it as a toilet so he didn't have to unlock the door. In the same hospital, there was a department for children. 80 children were staying there under the same conditions. Awful conditions that was shocking the world. It was shocking me. The first time I was there, I could be there for 2 hours and I had to leave. When I was traveling back and forth to Denmark and Romania, preparing my next mission. In Denmark, I called up a painting factory, told them about the children departments, told them that the building really needed to be painted to fresh it up, to make it more positive. When I drove back to Romania, of course in my old Volvo, I had a trailer full of painting donated from the company and 3 volunteers on the back seat. In a few weeks we painted the children departments, and that was the beginning of a long process changing the way that the people is dealing with handicapped and mentally ill. After 1.5 years, the department at this hospital was closed down, and the children were moved out to smaller units called family houses. They even started school. Romania learned me this. It's very easy to transform, to make a change, if you listen to the people who have the problem. After Romania, I moved to Vesterbro. It's a neighborhood in Copenhagen behind the central station. At that time, it was the cheapest place to get a flat. Now it's the most expensive. Of course, I didn't earn anything. It's a neighborhood with a lot of street minorities, sex workers, homeless, and we have around 700 or 800 people who use drugs who comes there every day. They're injecting on the street. At that time, we collected between 8 and 12,000 used needles a week. They were even dying on the street. More people die of overdoses and drugs in Denmark than in traffic. It's the same high number here in Sweden and Norway. Here's one of them. A wonderful woman. She's also a sex worker. She's been to a job, perhaps have 2 customers. She's got enough money for her drug. Her drug is heroin. She find a spot near a very big exhibition place, not hidden behind a parked car, because she's afraid of having an overdose and die. She falls down like this, and I find her like this. I have been living there for many years, so I know how to act. I talk very loud to her. She don't react. I grab her arm hard, and she said, And then I know that she's got just enough drug to disappear from this world. Her childhood was awful. She was abused. She was moving around between families. She is taking drugs as a solution on her problems. And we, as a society, we look at the drug as the problem. We meet each other 2 different kinds of ways. So for many, many years, Vesterbro have fought for an overdose prevention site, mainly because of better conditions for people who use drugs, but also for me and my children to cut down used needles and people dying on the street. I will tell you 3 concrete actions that I've been involved in to have an overdose prevention site. It's a place where you can go. When you have bought illegal drugs, you can go there and you can, under supervision of a nurse, take your drugs. Nobody have ever died in an overdose prevention site in the world of an overdose. It's the safest place to be. The first action was a cafe, the first open cafe for people who use drugs in Vesterbro with toilets. We have 2 open toilets. It was used, I don't ask you, what did you do when you went to the toilet? It's a private matter. But the toilets were very, very popular. And after 1.5 years, the municipality of Copenhagen found out that people was actually taking drugs there. In 1.5 years, we saved 25 of dying of an overdose because of that toilet and because we were there. They flipped out totally. For 20 years, politicians and authorities in Denmark have told us that it's not legal to make an overdose prevention site. Yes, Danes are naive. We believe our politicians. But then we thought, let's try to make a test trial on this. You do test trials in many cases, so why not do it here? So second action was to try again, now in a basement. It was closed down the day before we should open, because in the local plans in Vesterbro, there is this that you are not allowed to open health clinics. That is to avoid Thai massage with happy end. What happy end is, I will come back to. Third try, let's put wheels under the overdose prevention site. We call it a Fixerum. Not to drive away from the police, but to move around in the neighborhood where the drug users is and to avoid conflict with the local citizens. We bought a used ambulance in Germany, rebuilt it in a backyard, and launched it 8 years ago. We were pretty nervous. We thought that it would be closed down by the authorities, police, and that we should have a test trial. Lawyers was ready to do this. It never happened. So for 20 years we have been told that it was not legal, but nobody interacted. So when nobody was touching us or closing us, we had to move on. And after a year, the municipality of Copenhagen wanted to cooperate, and they made permanent safe injection overdose prevention sites in Vesterbro. When they did that, we closed down. Our organization was, our mission was completed, and the old Fixerums should retire. The National Museum heard, so now the Fixerums is a part of our national history. It's the Department of New Times, which goes from 1400 until today. And the inspector of New Times said to the opening speech, he said, we take in this subject because of 2 reasons. First, people who use drugs is a part of our history. Important. They're here. Secondly, why was it volunteer, the civil society, who have to make the first overdose prevention site and not one of the biggest and most expensive welfare states in the world? And I was standing like this, ask me, I know the answer. That is because this is just a modern history, a modern example on how we actually change and transform our society. It's you and me who do it. It's not a vote every 4th year. This is just a modern way of, a modern example of this. Fixelangs is the first Danish word you have to learn today. Later on I will test you. 42% of people who use, on sex workers on the street are violated. 42% is violated or threatened. If you are a sex worker at a brothel, it's only 3%. For many years, we have talked about creating a safe space for sex workers to cut down that huge number. We bought an ambulance because every time Michael called up for a free room for rental, they were like putting on. They know what I'm doing. After nobody have really done this, so we bought this and we rebuilt it a little bit, put it on the street, and asked the street sex workers to join. And they were like, Michael, this is crazy. We can't use this with customers, and when we use it, it will move. We have put this small sticker behind, don't come knocking if the car is rocking. But they were like, we can't do this. And then after a while, they said, okay, if we're going to do it, we're going to change it. They want to pimp it up, and they wanted some other stuff. Here you can see, you probably have it in the garden. It was Annika, a young sex worker. She told me, when I do the service of a blowjob, I hurt my knees. We need a knee pillow. They wanted to keep the ambulance chair. They named it the blowjob chair. 3 kinds of different kinds of condoms, and then the sex workers start to using it. Now the volunteers have taken over. So the second word is sexelance. Many people survive by collecting bottles and cans. In Denmark as well as here in Sweden, we have a recycle system for this. But instead of people digging around in garbage, couldn't we do it a little bit more dignified? So some years ago, we put together some wooden boxes, wrote recycle bottles on it, and put it around in parks in Copenhagen. When it's a good weather like this, we like to sit outside, drink a soft drink or a beer, but what should we do with the bottle? The short story is this: pantholder. It's a place where you can put your bottle when you have used it, and the pant collectors, the bottle collectors, they can grab it there. 10% of the recycled pant system is not returned every year. It's around 170 million Danish crowns. Just imagine this money going back to the street minorities, and not in the nature or as garbage. 3 Danish words. Say after me: fixelangs. Good. Sexelangs. Pantholder. All 3 new Danish words adopted to the Danish dictionary. And here they are. Here they are, the real social entrepreneurs. This is a group of the people from the Fixerangs creating the first overdose prevention site in Denmark. Here's a few of them from the Sexelangs. They're the real social entrepreneurs. To be a social entrepreneur is not a title from the university, it's an action. It's an action of change. So you can be the one getting that paint, painting that room, starting the transformation. Thank you for listening.